What do you think is the most important component in being of service or value to another? It's timing. If you're going to be of any value to anyone, you've got to catch them when they're in the receptive mode. But more important, you've got to be in the receptive mode. So you don't have to wait until your knee feels better before you're in the receptive mode. And in fact, being in the receptive mode will serve both of those purposes. It will help you to be of value to them, and it will help your knee too.
Right.
Esther was discussing with a friend on the telephone a few weeks ago. He was talking about wanting to find perfect gifts for people. And so they got off on the subject of giving and receiving, or givers and takers, or what receiving really is, or what giving really is. And then because of the nature of their long conversation, we began discussing it with groups following that. And we want to start in this place. Step 1 is you ask. Step 2 is source answers. And step 3 is you've got to be in the receiving mode. So how is it that source answers? In other words, you heard some stories today of different things. The man was receiving letters and different things happened. And we told the story of Esther meeting with her new rapper friend and so forth. So where does the answer come from, and how does the receiver receive the answer? In other words, doesn't it most often come through someone else who is being of service? Step 1 is you ask. Step 2 is source answers. Step 3 is you got to receive. So where does somebody else fit into that? If all you got to do is ask, and source is always going to answer, and you're going to get what you, then does there need to ever be anybody else of service to help you receive what you're asking for? Are you with us on this? If everyone is an extension of source energy, and everyone has access to what source energy is offering, then how would anybody else play into the equation? Well, you play into the equation all day, every day, because sometimes you're in the receiving mode for something that somebody else is asking for. And because you're in the receiving mode, your timing is perfect, so that you rendezvous at the perfect time, so that as they ask and as you receive on their behalf, provided they are in the receiving mode, then you get to be part of the dance. Did you follow that? Ooh. So you can't be of service unless you are in the receiving mode. And when you're in the receiving mode, then your timing is great. So then there's just this give and take all day, every day. You're just dancing with one another as people upon the planet. Some are asking, some are receiving, some aren't in the receiving mode. Others are in the receiving mode that are getting ready to be ready to be ready to even be more in the receiving mode. In other words, you just can't get it wrong. Can you see how the answer to both of your questions is the same thing? You just got to find some way of stopping any conversation in your own mind that is responsible for the resistance that is keeping you from doing the two things you just said you want to do. Feel better in your knee and be of value to others. Mm-hmm. Because what it sounded like you were saying is, I'll take care of this physical thing first, and once I do that, then I'll be of service to others. Isn't it nice how the universe is giving it all to you at once? All the things you want are all wrapped up in you just getting tuned in, tapped in, turned on. And then everything that you want, your value to others, might even be of service for you to have a knee that hurts and then have a knee that stops hurting.
It's interesting.
Without having to chop your leg off and get a new one.
Yes, that's true. Can I ask another thing?
Of course.
Okay. The other thing that I've wondered about is the ascended masters, like Jesus or Buddha and some of the other people that,
Or you. The room is full of them.
Yes. Yeah.
Just people in the receiving mode who understood what the receiving mode felt like and meant to be there and often were.
But are they still there to help us if we want them? To help them?
All of them.
All of them.
All of them.
Okay.
But that's what we were saying. The broadcast is happening. The revelation is happening. So the only reason that anyone would think maybe the revelation isn't happening is that you're not tuned in, so you're not receiving it. So then you say, hey, where'd everybody go?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, no one has brought this up today, but as far as the president that we have today, and that in terms of, I could perceive, but I don't. I can see that his ability to have the law of attraction works for him in ways that he has learned to develop that, even though my perception can be that it isn't right, that it may be wrong. But I also feel deep down, as I know from my, what I would call maybe my God self, that everything is changing and moving.
Well, what all of the ascended masters would say to you simultaneously in one voice is,
oh God, here it comes.
things are always working out for all of you. And that often in the midst of something that feels unsettling to a lot of you, that there is a stronger asking and therefore a stronger answering. You just can't get it wrong and you never get it done. And so why would any of you use anything as your reason to pinch yourself off for a moment from all of the new asking that has recently been stirred within you?
Okay, so this leads me to ask you about when I'm sleeping and I feel like that I wake up in the middle of the night with fears, but they're not my fears. But even though there's not a separation.
Well, they are your fears because there's no one else fearing through you.
That's very good, thank you.
There's no assertion, there's only attraction. And so when you wake up in fear, that means that you've got that ball rolling pretty good. And when you wake up, you're just stepping back into that vibration, that's all.
Okay, so you're saying I'm having that in my waking hours before I go to sleep.
Absolutely.
Those fears are in there.
Absolutely, because if they weren't there, the momentum of them couldn't carry over into your just waking up and feeling them. It's like, so you're asleep and you reemerge into non-physical and you really do resonate with your source energy. But when you come back into your consciousness, there is a habit that you all have, and it's sort of a good thing. It's the difference between whether they pronounce you alive in the morning or dead. But when you come back into your consciousness, you're so good at your observation of your nowness, of your realness, of this physical, tangible world, that you usually in one fell swoop just pick up right where you left off. And that's the reason that a meditation is so beneficial, because when you meditate, you are active and involved and awake as your vibration is shifting. So your vibration is where you last left it. So meditation is so helpful in helping you to leave your vibration in a different point of attraction. And in time, you not only will not wake up feeling fear, you'll wake up feeling enthusiasm and eagerness and a newfound energy, a new aliveness.
Okay. Well, are there spirits that need help? There's a mind thought out there, mindset that there's spirits that, need help, things like that.
Here's why people misunderstand that. When you make your transition into non-physical, you leave behind all of this physical stuff, all of this physical doubt and fear, all resistance. And you reemerge into the fullness of who your inner being is and what's in your vortex and what you know to be. But while you are all in your physical bodies, every thought that you ever think still exists. And law of attraction is managing those thoughts too. So they are what you might call rivers or streams of consciousness from the spin-off of man's conscious thought. And if you tap into some of that, you can get a stronger dose of something than you think you're capable of thinking. In other words, if you get fearful and you allow the momentum of that fearful thought to become large enough, you can tap into a really strong fearful thought that is much more than just your own life experience has allowed you to find, because you tap into the similarities of the vibrations of others that are doing the same thing. Does that make sense to you?
It does, but if I'm not in fear, I had a meditation before, and when I was at a retreat, and I was shifted back to my home, bilocated, and I was standing there and I was watching my brother who's deceased guiding beings, spirits, people that have passed on into my home. And next thing I know, I'm on my landing on my stairs, and I'm watching them as they're going up the stairs. And then I'm watching them go down the hallway into my room, and they're like around my room, my bed. And I had all kinds of flood of people telling me, you've got a medicine Buddha and you've got Kuan Yin at the end, and you've created this healing space for beings, spirits that
But we think that what you were translating visually is the cooperative components. In other words, you're asking about the ascended masters and you're translating them into something that's tangible for you.
But what were those? Were they real spirits? Were they real people that were stuck trying to get home, or were they just reincarnations of me? Or you see, it's.
First, we want to say, no one's stuck. No one's stuck. When you make your transition, you are not stuck. The only stuckness is while you're still in your physical body thinking stuckful thoughts. And then needing to justify them or explain them. When you get into your state of alignment and you feel the wholeness of who you are, you don't feel those things and you don't have those kinds of thoughts.
What was the people going down my hallway?
It's your hallway. You invited them.
Yeah, I don't.
You're the creator of your own reality and you're the creator of your own dreams. From the conversation that we had just now, you want to be of service. And from the framework in which you were playing that out, in order to be of service, there needs to be someone who needs serviced. And so, since you want to be of service, then you have to create those who need service.
So all of it is my own, okay.
And we're not saying for a moment that you aren't of great service and that you won't be of more service. We just want you to get it into the context of what that service is. People are not going to line up in your hallway in a lost way and wait for you to lead them to something, because when they're feeling that way, you can't lead them anyway. They've got to be ready to be ready to be ready to be ready. So law of attraction and your inner being and their inner being are providing these rendezvous, these opportunities for you to come together in perfect, what you might want to call divine timing. And if you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and they're somewhere in the vicinity, then when you have that rendezvous, that kind of a vision that more accurately depicts what we were talking about would be you just moving through life and rendezvousing with someone, and you're inspired to say something that's meaningful to them, and then they just go on their way. The thing that people who want to be of service keep misunderstanding is that you want to be of service forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Esther will probably never meet her rapper friend again. That was the moment in time, and that served its purpose. And he got from her exactly what he was coming for. And she got the glorious couple of hours that she was looking for. And that was enough for that rendezvous. She didn't take his address. She's not going to become his best friend. They're not going to rap together. It was a moment in time that the universe provided that feels random but isn't, that is meaningful. And that's how you are of service to one another in the most glorious way. You're letting law of attraction pick the timing of it. But you can improve your degree of service or the number of serviceful opportunities that you have by just making sure that you're more ready to be ready to be ready to be ready. So as you move through life playful and happy and feeling good and tuned in, tapped in, turned on, so you're in the receiving mode, then you can be, and this isn't a word that you like, but it's the best word that applies, you can be utilized to be the step 2 phase for someone who's asking for something. A few years ago, we were talking a lot about birds and how often they are the messenger that brings you something that you are looking for. And the reason that the birds are so valuable in helping you to feel something in a moment of time, first of all, because there are a lot of them around, and next, because they're almost without exception tuned in, tapped in, turned on. And so when you're in the receiving mode, there's always a bird around who can punctuate that, you see.
And that happened to me.
If you want it to be something like an abominable snowman to punctuate it, it's sparser. And so imagine, here you are like flocks of birds, tuned in, tapped in, turned on, happy with life, satisfied where you are, eager for more, moving through your days, not only in the receptive mode of wonderful things flowing to you, but in complete readiness and service for the smile or the word or the help that you could offer to someone else. Not running around looking for the needy. The needy are the hardest ones to help because they don't let it in. People really in need have a very difficult time letting it in.